drum, hit your whole body go crack. The baseline move, take it off of the mat. We rock crowds every time we play. Boom, boom, back, yeah, we got it like that. Kick drum, hit your whole body go crack. The baseline move, take it off of the mat.
What's going on, people, and welcome to the very first episode of 2021. And I'm your host, Jaydee Dyer. Same energy, new year, and it's only the best NBA content when you come here on the HeatCheck. So you know we had to start it off right this year with the whole team, the family, the NBA breakdown. My guys, yeah? The man that dished out so many dimes for the Iowa Hawkeyes, they had to retire the number 10 jersey. An NBA champion and an all-star, BJ Armstrong. Actor, model, positive connoisseur, but don't forget he's a basketball player that will still dunk on you when necessary, Mr. Ovie Soko. And look, the man with the basketball IQ is deep as Steph Freeze this week. There's a reason why we call him the hoop genius. None other than Mo Mooncey. Happy New Year, my brothers. Yeah? Hey, what's the resolutions? I need to hear them all.
Happy New Year. For a second, when Jaydee was introducing saying actor and model, I thought he was going to say my name, but fair enough. You know.
Hey, what is the New Year resolutions for 2021? Mo, come round, man. What's the resolutions this year?
Oh, man, if any of you guys follow my Instagram or subscribe to my YouTube, you would have seen what I started on New Year's Day. I'm starting a journey back to, recovering from these injuries that I've been suffering over the past few seasons, my shoulder, ankle, knee. So I'm looking to get back healthy again, get back on the court, playing ball, doing what I love most. So that's my resolution, get back in shape and, rehab all of these injuries that have been keeping me down for the last few years.
Mo's looking to level up. BJ, 2021, what you got for me?
Just health and safe for everyone. 2020 was rough for everyone in so many ways. And I just want to have Mo calling me in the middle of the night when Steph Curry goes for 60. That's what I want. I just want to be in his timeline. I want to be in his thought. I want to see the world from Mo's eyes. That's all I want. That's what I want. I want in 2021, I want Mo's vision. That's what I want. That's what I want, his vision.
Ovie, we call you the positive connoisseur for a reason. 2021, what does it hold for you, bro?
Just better than the last year, just trying to improve on every day. I think it's just trying to maximize my potential personally, on and off the court, and be the best me I can be every day. I think that's the best way all of us can sort of lead a fulfilling kind of life, on a day-to-day basis, especially with the 2020 we just had. So, yeah.
See, I ask all your resolutions because in our latest news this week, I'm going to catch you up with people given the flowers they deserve. Yeah, so let's catch the people up with some absolute recognition. And we'll start with the Trailblazers forward Carmelo Anthony, who climbed to 14th on the leading scorer in the NBA history list, surpassing, of course, the legend Tim Duncan. I mean, what a moment for Melo. Anyone that knows me knows that Melo was one of the major reasons why I got into basketball, and he's had an illustrious career. But BJ, what's one of your favorite Carmelo Anthony moments as he continues to cement himself as a future Hall of Famer?
Well, yeah, I've been watching this young man since high school here in the States, and he's had so many wonderful moments. But, Carmelo really ushered in the one and done era of players who went to college for 1 year and then went straight to the NBA. His 1 year at Syracuse was amazing. It was amazing for so many reasons. Obviously, they won the national title, but people don't remember they weren't even ranked at the beginning of the season. And that, to me, is what made that such a special season. He's had a phenomenal career. I mean, he is a bucket waiting to happen. I mean, that young man will be able to score in his sleep. I mean, he can just go get a bucket whenever. But you know what? His 1 year at Syracuse was a special year. He hung, he got the banner in the rafters, and he's had an amazing, amazing career. So salute and congratulations to Carmelo Anthony, and hopefully he'll continue to move up the ranks and see where this ends at the end of his career.
Mo, this is a harder question for you now. Knicks Melo, Nuggets Melo, or Syracuse Melo?
I got to go with Denver Nuggets, Carmelo Anthony, man. That man was a bucket. I remember watching him go up against Kobe in the playoffs. They had some great battles over the years, and it's just been a joy to watch his career. And, although I say Nuggets Melo is the best, I have to, give him a special shout out because right now he's playing for the Trailblazers. But if we go back 2-3 seasons, everyone was saying he's finished. it was looking like no teams wanted to sign him. Everyone was talking about him being washed up. He wasn't accepting the roles that teams wanted to give him off the bench. Whereas now he's come back with a new mindset. He stayed in shape, he stayed ready, and he stayed focused. And he's really just showing an example of, you know, you're never really truly down and out. You know, there's always hope to get back to doing what you do.
Ovie, how important is that ring to add to Melo's collection? You talk about the national championships there, you talk about the scoring titles and the all-star achievements, but how important is that championship ring to his legacy, in your opinion?
I think it'll be huge. You know, one thing that we all know and we can all agree on is Melo is a terrific scorer, one of the best I think the game's ever seen. He can score in any way imaginable, but literally, you know, he's not one of the, you know, probably newer age scorers that needs to score from, you know, 50 feet. He can back you down in the post, mid-range, three-point, however you want it, and he really has a great knowledge and basketball IQ of the game. But I think it would be amazing for him to be able to get a ring. You know, we know of so many guys that have gone down in history in this game that, you know, they've had amazing careers and they've been great individual players. But then, you know, when you have that sort of Hall of Fame discussion and all of that stuff, which I'm sure he will be a Hall of Fame player. I mean, he's amazing. That ring always sort of comes up, you know, and I think that's one of the things that if you speak to a lot of those guys, you know, that are done at this point, if they could go back and you could ask them, would they give up some of the personal accolades for a ring? A lot of them would probably say yes. So, you know, I would love to see Melo be able to get a ring, and I think it would be a great cap to what's been an amazing career so far.
Like, he's only 200 points away or so from Dominique and Oscar, who's just above him in terms of on that list of all-time scoring. So expect Melo to keep climbing. And talking about players that just keep climbing, and sometimes I just run out of superlatives for LeBron James because I actually want to give him his accolade. He broke another record last week. And the King just continues to do some things that are just so special. But when someone said this statistic down to me, I didn't really understand it at first and give it the respect maybe it deserves. So, Ovie, I'm hoping you can maybe break it down for me. He became the first player to score 10 points in 1,000 consecutive games. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but how big is that accomplishment, Ovie? I'm
about to be 30 years old. I've been playing basketball since I was about 12 odd. I don't know. I might have, but I don't know if I've played in 1,000 games in my whole basketball career, from little league up to playing in the pros now. So for him to have scored more than 10 points in over 1,000 NBA games at the highest level of the sport, with all eyes being on him, with every single defensive scheme in every game being built to stop him. With guys that have gone 4 years in college, one and dones, the best player in each class. You know, they go up against LeBron James, and that's their big game. You know, they dream about this moment of trying to stop the King. You know, and no one's been able to do it for such a long time. And that sort of consistency, I think that's what makes him absolutely incredible and special. You know, when we speak about legends in any sport, it's the consistency that makes them so great. And I think that's just one stat of many that really kind of sums up in a nice way how dominant this guy is on a very consistent basis, night in, night out.
BJ, for time context, people need to understand this is approximately, they say, 12 and a half seasons. But when you think about some of the incredible players that's played in this league, some of them haven't played 12 and a half seasons. So are we doing enough to appreciate LeBron James in this moment?
Well, you know, LeBron James has really ushered in an era of length of time throughout the span of his career. And we keep saying that, you know, we're expecting for him to have a drop off. Well, he hasn't shown that yet. You know, as Ovie was saying, he's almost 30 years old. I was thinking this is LeBron James, like 18th year. You know, he's probably played as he's almost played as many years as Ovie is, you know, in his age. And, you know, when you become a professional, you had to look for the certain level of consistency that you have. Well, LeBron James, when we saw him come into this league as a high school kid, we all thought he was going to be a facilitator, you know, a really versatile all-around player. And what he's done probably better than anything is the consistency in which he's scored the basketball. I mean, he may be the all-time leading scorer of all time, and scoring is not even the best thing that he does. So for him to have the ability to score, you know, in double digits for 1,000+ games, 1,000, that's a huge number to say, I'm going to go out there. And he's not like sneaking up on anyone. He's the first option, every single night that he goes out there. It's really an incredible achievement. And again, congratulations to him for having the ability to play this long, let alone score and do all the other things that he does so well. And then, by the way, he's won like 4 championships along this journey. So, it's been incredible to watch him play and be really the best player in the game for this length of time.
Mo, you're a basketball historian, so I know you'll appreciate it from this sort of angle. Look, MJ had 866 consecutive games where he was doing this. The second longest active streak is James Harden. He's only at 466. So that when you put it in that sort of context, does that make you appreciate LeBron James' accolade a little bit more?
To be honest with you, I don't think that there is a single statistic or number or ranking list that can really show you the greatness of what LeBron has done over his career. From ever since he came into the league, I don't really remember a time where he hasn't been in the NBA and been this pillar of consistency. And the thing that I love most about LeBron James is he didn't come into the league a complete player. Yeah, he was extremely talented, but every offseason he goes away and he works on his game, especially when he faces adversity, because a lot of players, the great players have had great careers, and, there's a lot of players who you can't really knock them for a lot of things. Whereas LeBron, he's lost his fair share of finals as well as winning them. But every time he loses one, he comes back even stronger. For example, after they lost against the Spurs in his first finals appearance, he realized that the Spurs were exposing his lack of perimeter shooting. So he went away, he worked on that three-point shot. When they lost against the Dallas Mavericks, he realized that zone was absolutely destroying them. So he went away, he worked on his post-up game so that he could go in and break down that zone. So every time he comes up against adversity, he comes back, he gets even better, he adds more skills to his bag. And we've seen that over time he gets better and better. And as BJ said, we're all expecting him to drop off, but he's not showing any signs of that right now. And the question is, will he ever drop off? I really can't see the point where he starts slowing down, because we've been expecting it for the last few years. And he just keeps, he loves drinking his red wines, and he's aging like a fine wine because he's getting better and better every year.
Bronny Jr., get yourself ready, my friend. You might be playing with your dad. That's what I'm going to say to you. Get yourself ready, my friend. You might be playing with your father. Look, just a quick update as well on the latest news in regards to the latest news we gave you last week in regards to the Brooklyn Nets guard, Spencer Dinwiddie. He underwent a successful right knee surgery, and they're expecting him to make a full recovery. So that's prayers up for him, and that's good news to start 2021. But last week, it got very heated in this segment, as always. So let's get into it again, and I expect nothing less than the same. We would be amiss to not start hot or not this week without talking about two-time MVP Steph Curry, who dropped a career-high 62. Yes, I said it, 62 points in Golden State's win over the Trailblazers on Sunday. All I'm going to say to you, gentlemen, is I don't need to say it. Let the babyface assassin speak for himself.
And how aware are you of the point total that you had? I mean, 54 was the career high coming in. When you get to that 40 spot and things like that, are you even aware of the numbers as they're piling up?
Of course, but you try to just continue to stay humble and stay in the moment. That's the best way to approach it. It doesn't help when your teammates are yelling at you every dead ball, how many points you got. But other than that, it's just don't do anything differently. Just keep being aggressive, being decisive, and good things happen.
And now, when you had 59 and you were trailing Draymond for that last three, why do you got to do Clay like that with his 60 and go for 62 there?
Killer instinct.
Yeah, I mean, it made so much sense that it was Draymond, knowing exactly what the situation was and knowing where I was at. For a hot second, I thought he wasn't going to look for me, but I shouldn't have never doubted it. He knew exactly where I was, and thankfully it went in.
And you've been pumping iron, too, I see. Got the arms.
we had 8 months. That's all I could do.
Yeah, that's all you could do.
And Steph, we'll let you go with this. You had a nice conversation with Damian Lillard at the end. His career best 61 came against the Dubs. Your career best 62 comes against the Blazers. Sign me up for Lillard Curry all night long. I mean, you two are just wonderful to watch, and I know there's always kind of the game within the game, too.
I mean, I said it before Friday's game. It's always, the best guys in the league, especially at the point guard position, bring the best out of you. And if you're around this league long enough, you kind of get to see every kind of scenario and situation. And we have a lot to fight for and a huge challenge in front of us. They're, the established team now. So for a guy like him, like I said, it always just brings the best out of you. And I love the competition. And that's kind of what it is.
Bro, you got a high audacity level. Is there any point in the season where at 18 seconds left on shot clock, you'll pull up from half court? Is that something that's maybe going to happen?
We'll see.
Greatness is unquestionable. Ovie, I have to go to you first because we got into a real debate on here last week about Kyrie and Steph. So do you agree with the first hot take this week that Steph's performance was a statement to the league and maybe some of the haters to know your role?
You know what? I'm going to have an interesting answer. I'm going to say no. I think it's a cold take. And I say that because I don't think anyone at any point was doubting Stephen Curry's ability. When I woke up in the morning and I saw that he had 62 points, in my mind, it wasn't something where I was like, oh, man, it's crazy. Stephen Curry scored 62 points because it's something that he's a very capable player. He's capable of doing that. I think where a lot of the noise is coming from is going to be sort of the production of the team, and are they going to be able to win consistently? Are they going to be able to keep up, or is he going to be able to keep up those sort of performances to be able to give them a chance to fight for a playoff spot? I think at this point, I don't think they haven't really beaten anyone. They beat Portland 2 days after they got thrashed by them, but like I said, Portland just showed them 2 days prior that they could whoop their butt. They beat a Denver team that's gotten off to a very slow start. So I don't know. They haven't really beaten anyone in my opinion that they're a real tough matchup. All the tough matchups that they've come across so far, they've gotten blown out. So I won't say silenced any haters. I don't think it's wild for Stephen Curry to score 62 points. It's amazing. It never gets any less amazing when you see big performances like that. But, he's one of those players like James Harden. If James Harden has a big night, it's not going to blow your mind. If LeBron James has a triple-double, you're not going to say that's crazy, So that's why I see it. That's where I stand with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing this show for a little bit over a year, and I know when a certain man starts smirking for no reason, when Ovie starts talking, I know it's about to go off. So all I'm going to do is take a seat back and ask you, Mo Mooncey, do you agree with the hot take?
All right.
Here we go.
I'm gonna say this, Jaydee. Jaydee, can you hear this?
I hear you loud and clear, bro.
In the words of Wardell Steph Curry himself, sometimes you don't have to say anything. Stay present, stay in the moment, have fun, and all glory to God. Because never for a second did I doubt the greatness of Stephen Curry. But certain man came on here to tell me Kyrie Irving was better than Stephen Curry. And I just want to this. As great as Stephen Curry's performance was, and we watched that and it was amazing. Just a few hours earlier to that, the Brooklyn Nets, who are currently a below 500 team, whereas the Golden State Warriors are now a plus 500 team, they took on the Washington Wizards. So, Dame was going up against Steph. That's two elite point guards battling it out, And then Kyrie was going up against Russell Westbrook and the Washington Wizards, who really haven't been able to get any wins going this season. And then we saw Russell Westbrook backing down Kyrie, scoring with ease down the stretch in the fourth, and then Kyrie Irving missing the game winner. If that's your best point guard in the league, that's your best point guard in the league. But it ain't mine. It ain't mine. Mine is Ovie in Golden State, making it rain. 62 points. I don't even need to talk too much. You know what I'm saying? I was saying, look, as soon as Draymond gets back, the Warriors going to be back to winning. They didn't want to hear me. But I guess now I don't even need to say nothing. You don't need to hear me. Just need to let the play speak for itself.
I mean, BJ, look, you delivered the highest. It's the highest scoring game in the NBA.
I just want to know if I'm still going to tell me that Kyrie's better. That's all I want to know from this.
I mean, Ovie, I feel like I should give you a chance to respond before I bring BJ in.
I'll respond. Hey, in my opinion, look, at the end of the day, when they matched up against each other, we know what happened. They got their heads blown out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't even a competition. It wasn't close. If we match up the Brooklyn Nets and the Warriors 9 times out of 10 this season, we all know what's going to happen. So the fact that Stephen Curry's on a team that's clearly they're gonna struggle, this year. Oubre's gotten off to a slow start. We all know that. Wiggins, surprisingly, he's been decent. He's been decent. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna lie, he's been solid. And Wiseman, he's gonna be a solid piece, but he's a rookie. He's gonna grow. So Stephen Curry has to carry the load of the team. So without a doubt, if Stephen Curry's gonna have to volume shoot to give them a chance, Stephen Curry's bound to have those kind of nights. And I know you can't agree, you can't disagree with me on that point. You know what I'm saying? Stephen Curry is in a position now where, look, he has to take volume shots to give them a chance. If Stephen Curry don't put up like 25, 30, 40 shots on some nights, that team doesn't have a chance to win. They don't have a chance to win. So given that, and Stephen Curry's clear ability to obviously stretch the floor and make shots from damn near anywhere on the floor, and all four guys playing for him every single possession, I don't think you can use him having a big scoring night as a viable argument. You know, at the end of the day, Stephen Curry, did he necessarily have those nights on a consistent basis when he was playing with Clay, KD, and Draymond, and they were super stacked? No, because okay, you got to spread the wealth. But now he don't have to share it with anyone. So I guarantee you he's going to have more special nights like that this year. But still, you can't use that as an argument to say, oh, he's better than Kyrie Irving, who's playing alongside maybe the best scorer of all time. Like, come on, bro. Let's.
But I'm still yet to hear one reason why Kyrie Irving is better than Steph. I also want to point out some facts to you. You know, you talk a lot about Steph Curry being able to score from anywhere, being able to shoot from long range, and that's why it's so great. But Steph Curry's 62 points, 38 of them actually came from inside the arc.
Yeah, 8 of 16 from three. I know.
The arc. You know what I'm saying? He took 31 shots in 36 minutes and dropped 62 points, okay? Now, my question to you is, how is Kyrie Irving better than this guy? And if you want to talk about that opening night matchup of the Nets versus the Warriors, the first week of the NBA season means nothing because I saw the Milwaukee Bucks lose by 30 points to the New York Knicks. So if you want to put stock into an opening night performance and a matchup like that, then that's all good. And if you want to match up those two teams saying Brooklyn win 9 times out of 10, because one of them has Kevin Durant as full forward and one of them has Andrew Wiggins. So I'm not putting no stock into that. I just want to a reason why you think Steph Curry
okay, so you're not going to put...
I still haven't heard it.
So don't put any stock into the first week, but put stock into the second and third week, right? That's what you're telling me. Put more weight. Like it's all the beginning of the league. It's all the beginning of the season. And when you talk about matching them up, player by player, this is what I was saying. I don't think it's crazy for you to say Stephen Curry is better than Kyrie, but the manner in which you said, "Oh, Stephen Curry is better than Kyrie every day of the week," as if Kyrie isn't an absolute alien when it comes to basketball and what he can do with the ball. Let's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just give props. Okay. If you said, "Yo, in my opinion, Stephen Curry's better," cool. But don't ever carry it as if he's a non-factor. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I got one more thing to say. I got one more thing to say. Not only have you not given me any reasons why Kyrie is better than Steph, the other thing is this the same Kyrie Irving that you came on this show a few months ago and said the Brooklyn Nets are better without Kyrie Irving? He makes teams worse. He made Cleveland have problems. He made Boston worse, and he makes the Nets worse when he's playing for them. Because I got the receipts, my brother. And if that's the best point guard in the league for you, then I don't know what happened over the past season where he didn't play that made you change your mind. But I just want to know if it's the same Kyrie Irving you're talking about.
Of course, 100%. And I'll back that I said that. And I said that on the premises of the culture and things that are to do with off the court. But when you talk about ability and what he can do with the basketball, strictly what he can do with the ball in his hands, okay, yeah, he's up there with every player in the league, in my opinion. What he can do with the ball in his hands, Kyrie Irving is, it's an argument. You can argue with
if we're talking about having the ball in hands, we should get the professor and Bone Collector and one to come
all I'm going to say to you is there's two players in history who have put out 30 points in both halves. The late, great Kobe Bryant and Pistol Pete. So that shows you the level of where Steph is playing at this moment in time. I do want to move on very quickly because I didn't get a chance to hear from BJ.
We didn't even let you get talk.
I didn't even get a chance to hear from BJ.
I need to BJ was talking about Harry as well. I need to. He's been quiet.
BJ's about to come in right now because talking to critics and people answering their critics, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Philadelphia at the early stages of this season. Leading the Eastern Conference at this early stage. Joel Embiid, look, is going into his 6th year, but this looks like probably shaping up to be one of his best years. I'm seeing what Doc Rivers and Ben Simmons are doing together. And of course, we spoke about those additions of Danny Green and Steph Curry. So BJ, do you agree with my second hot take? Is that, look, the 76ers are cooking up something very, very special at this moment in time?
I agree, JD, that the 76ers are trending in the right direction. What I love most is how Doc Rivers has came there and established leadership and held them accountable for how they're going to play. And that means how they're going to play on the defensive end. The most impressive thing about the Philadelphia 76ers right now is defensively, they have established themselves, starting with Joel Embiid and all the way down. They're playing good basketball on the defensive end, which is translated to them sharing the ball and doing all the other things, as in the NBA like to say, playing the right way. And I really like what they're doing here, especially early in the season. They are grinding the games out. They're playing together. But most importantly, you can see that this team is starting to believe and do something they haven't done and gone off on tangents. You know, whose team is it? Is it Joel Embiid's team? Is it Ben Simmons' team? Right now, they're playing together. They're sharing the ball. And you know what? That's another thing that I saw them play the other night. Ben Simmons looks very aggressive, attacking the basket every single time he gets the ball. And I like to see that aggressive Ben. We make so much in the media about what he's not doing, shooting the 3 ball, but let's celebrate what he does do. Take the ball, drive the ball to the basket, attack the rim, you know, do the things that you do, share and pass and create havoc. And I really like what Ben Simmons has done. And eventually he will extend. He's beginning to shoot the 3 ball. You know, I was making fun of those guys the other day after the game. They were playing, and you saw after the game, you saw Ben Simmons and the big fella shooting threes at the Dwight Howard shooting threes. And I thought, I don't know who set that matchup up, but, you know, I would like to see, you know, it looked like it was a rebounding drill more so than they were making baskets. But you like the fact that they're working at it. They're in the gym. They're playing hard. And most importantly, they're winning games. And I like the camaraderie and what they're trying to build up there in Philadelphia.
Mo, from what I've seen of Philadelphia this year, I'm loving some of their 2-man action, especially loving this Curry and Embiid when they're doing the pick and rolls down there. I think Steph Curry is a very, very underrated pickup this year, and you add Danny Green's championship experience. So do you believe in this hot take of you're loving something special cooking up right down there in Philadelphia?
You know, I said on my YouTube channel yesterday, if Philly can stay healthy and stay playing like this, then they can easily come out of the Eastern Conference, because right now, as BJ said, it's all starting with defense. They're ranked number 1 in defensive rating. They're leading the league in blocks and opponent field goal percentage. Only half of their opponents have been able to score more than 100. When you're playing great defense, that gives you the confidence boost that you need on offense. So like you said, Steph Curry, he's been playing amazing basketball. He's shooting like 50% from 3-point land. And it's other guys as well, the role players like Tobias Harris. If you watch him now, he's not hesitating when he gets his looks. When he goes to shoot that 3, he's shooting it with pure confidence. And as BJ said, there was a game the other day where they ran one play where Ben Simmons caught the ball on the wing to attack from, but instead, without hesitation, he pulled up, he cashed in a 3 as well. So this confidence is really translating from the defensive end over to offense. And then on the offensive side of things, Joel Embiid is playing like the most dominant big man that we know he can be. He's taking less shots than he did previously, but he's scoring them on a higher efficiency, you know, and he's also improved massively as a playmaker as well. Some of his reads and passes out of the post have definitely stepped up this year. And, you know, against the Toronto Raptors and, you know, his nemesis, Aaron Baines, who always causes him problems, he put up 29 points, 16 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 4 assists. And he's looking like he's in great shape. And he's looking like he's getting on with his teammates really well. And if he can stay doing this for the rest of the season, then, you know, we're going to have a serious conversation about the potential of what Doc Rivers has done here.
Ovie, looking at the way they've settled into the rhythm, they had an impressive win this week over Charlotte as well. I just thought the way they managed the players in terms of minute management and also the touches that everybody was getting just kind of highlighted how much they've come full circle. So what's their ceiling. Do you agree with this hot take? Are they cooking up something special at this moment in time?
It's obviously early in the season, but even with that being said, I think they've gone off to a great start, especially where they are defensively at the moment. It's great to see, and both of these guys have alluded to the fact that these guys playing defense at the level that they are right now is leading out to easier points, allowing guys to get out, get open looks at the three. Tobias Harris, besides his first night, he's been playing amazing. He's been shooting really well from three, and with the addition of Green and Steph Curry, I think that just causes for extra spacing, and it really, really allows Embiid to have a little bit more space. It allows Ben Simmons to be able to attack. And with that spacing and guys not necessarily being able to collapse quite as easily, it allows for easier reads. So not only are these guys already terrific basketball players, but now the reads are coming much easier. And I think these guys just love playing with each other, I think BJ, he was speaking about guys getting up shots after the game and whatnot. And that sort of culture of guys just wanting to work together, wanting to improve, I think it sets a tone and it sort of shows that these guys like playing with each other. And I think it translates into ball movement. And when the ball starts pinging around, it's easier for guys like Ben Simmons to catch the ball, rip and go straight away. It's easier for Joel Embiid to abuse his mismatch down on the block when the ball's been moving all over the place, rather than a lot of what I think we started to see last season, which was Joel Embiid sort of catching the ball. It was a bit static at times. I feel like guys didn't really know where they should be all the time, and it just allowed defenses to collapse on those guys, and it forced Joel Embiid into low efficiency. And it put Ben Simmons in questionable situations at times. So, yeah, I really like the start that they've gotten off to. I think they still are yet to face, a really tough challenge. But I do think they're going in the right direction. And I think there's good things on the horizon for those guys.
Well, let's assess another one of the sort of Philadelphia 76ers rivals, as you would say, start to this season, and that's been the Toronto Raptors. As you guys know, look, Toronto will always have a soft spot in my heart for what they've done and the history they've created. But I actually agree with our viewer, who we picked this week for our last hot or not take, Michael Kiley. He says very clearly, Toronto will not make the playoffs this year. And it's had me thinking, Mo, because I was looking at it and I was like, what are you talking about? It's a slow start to the season, all the rest of it. But the loss of Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, a year ago, they lost Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. They're moving away from that core that produced that 2019 title. So do you agree with this statement and this hot take from Michael?
Now, it's early in the season. They're 1-5, and yes, I'm very, very worried about what's going on with the Toronto Raptors. But to say they won't make the playoffs, I think is a little bit of a stretch. First of all, my guys OG and Aaron Baines, I've got to put some respect on their names. I can't be saying they won't make the playoffs. And here's the thing that's really concerning me, though. At the moment, they're almost last in the league in transition points. They're really not getting the steals and the deflections that's allowing them to get out and run the floor, whereas last season, they were third. So I feel like once their defense does pick up and they can start getting out in transition, they're going to improve. They're struggling in the half court as well. They've only scored 100 points in the win over the Knicks, and the Knicks are the only team they beat in the season. That's definitely an area for concern. I feel like they are missing Gasol and Ibaka, mainly for the playmaking that those guys bring. Operating out of the posts and making those passes was great for them. So I am very worried about the Toronto Raptors. But I feel like what we saw last season, the Eastern Conference semifinals, 7-game series, I feel like that's kind of the highest level that this squad can compete at, because at the end of the day, they don't have a superstar. We all thought Pascal Siakam was going to continue the great progress he was making and take that step up. But instead, he's just come out here like a human Beyblade, just spinning around in the lane every time he gets the ball. He definitely needs to work on some offensive moves because if you've got a fidget spinner for your number one option on your team, then I don't know how far you're going to get this season. But if I'm Masai Ujiri and I'm at the Raptors, I'm picking up that phone and I'm calling Houston. I'm saying, bring me James Harden right away, because something needs to change. This is a superstar-driven league. We saw that they won the title with Kawhi Leonard because Kawhi Leonard was the icing on the cake. At the moment, they've just got cake but no icing. It's just dry. You ain't even got a drink with it. It's just dry cake everywhere, bro. You need a superstar to be the icing on the cake of this team. Nick Nurse is a fantastic coach. He runs fantastic schemes. But without that supreme talent, that superstar talent, now maybe Pascal Siakam is going to prove me wrong. But right now, he's looking very limited offensively. It looks like the rest of the league has figured him out. Almost every time he comes up against a defender, they almost know what he's going to go to. He's going to try and finish with his right hand and spin move when he's in the lane. And I know you make jokes and whatnot. I'm not trying to disrespect Pascal Siakam. But either he's going to have to add some moves to his bag and really become an elite scorer, or they're going to have to make a trade, because I'm very concerned with what I'm seeing about the Toronto Raptors right now.
Pascal did something to you. At some point, you and Pascal bucked up. This is not the first time you've dug at Pascal on this show. Pascal did something.
Pascal, I want to see him develop his game, man. I want to see him improve.
Yeah, Pascal did something to you. Look, BJ, the Raptors have made the playoffs 7 straight seasons. And during that span, we've seen them win at least 48 games. For me, I'm a bit confused as to what I'm seeing at this moment in time, because as we spoke about, the schemes are still there, the head coach is still there, the foundation is still there. So what's so different this year?
You know, guys, that's an interesting question. And, you know, when I look at a team like this, and I know Masai personally, and I know Coach Nurse, and I know the people down there and the personnel, you know, perhaps looking at this, not making an excuse for the Toronto Raptors, they've had the most difficult transition of any team in the league. Why do I say that? One, you know, Toronto is, you know, the city is in a different country, right? They're in Canada. They have to come down during the bubble and play in Orlando. And you say, okay, that's really no big deal. They come down and do that. They go back once the bubble ends, and then all of a sudden they have to relocate their entire families and come down and move their families. They have kids in school. They had to find new places to live, so forth and so on, and transition. And they're not playing at home. So they have an unfair advantage. They're playing in an unfamiliar territory, and that is a really big deal, especially when you talk about having to relocate in the short amount of time that they had to do it. They had to go down to Tampa Bay, find new places, put their kids in school, get a place to live. And by the way, we got to play a 72-game season. They're basically playing 72 games on the road this year. So it's going to take them some time. I'm not making excuses. This isn't a league where you don't make excuses, but they've had a very difficult transition. You know, we've all had to deal with what we had to deal with in 2020, but this is going to make it very tough and difficult for them. So hopefully, because they have a lot of integrity, they have great leadership, they will have terrific guard play, they will figure this out. But guys, I have to, you know, look at what they have to do, not only on the court, but off the court. This is going to be tough for them. This is not going to be easy for them, and I'm sure they're going to find it out. I know Masai is a fighter. I know Coach Nurse is a fighter, Kyle Lowry, Van Fleet, and all of the guys, but hopefully they'll figure it out in time, because right now at the beginning of the season, it hasn't worked for them. But you know what? It's one thing we know about the Toronto Raptors. They have the grit, they have the know-how, but more importantly, I never, ever want to underestimate, you know, the heart of a champion. Those guys are champions up there, and they're going to give their best effort. So, you know, we'll see how it turns out, but that's very tough what they're doing. And I think people need to take notice of that, because that's not easy for anyone.
Ovie, the post-championship years are always tough. You think about the adjustments that were put on the expectations of, for example, the 2011 Mavs, or even the Cavaliers the second time LeBron left. Like, there's just a lot of pressure that's put on championship teams once they've stapled themselves as champions. But do you believe that they have enough to make the playoffs this year?
BJ is a really nice guy. You know, BJ, you're a great guy. You're a really nice guy. Mo might throw a couple funny jokes. Mo's gonna throw some funny stuff out there. Toronto's not making any playoffs this year. Toronto's not going to the playoffs this year. They're not going to the playoffs this year. And I'll tell you why. Look, they've lost the middle. They've lost the middle, and I say that on defense and on offense. Mo alluded to the offensive side of the ball, to what they lost as far as Marc Gasol's extremely high basketball IQ, which a lot of people really don't understand how smart of a player he is. I feel like this year you'll probably see a little bit more of it with him playing with so many talented pieces around him. But on offense and on defense, you know, what he did on defense as far as the direction and the positioning was huge for them. Ibaka, he had the athleticism, so maybe he might not have been as high a IQ basketball player as Gasol, but he was able to at least cause problems for guys at the rim and challenge stuff at the rim. Now, the toughest guy that they have in the middle is Boucher. And that's not going to get it done in this league. You know, I watched the Boston game the other night, and with all credit to Tatum, he started off and he's an absolute dog this year so far. Credit to him, but he was walking down the lane, scoring and ones, and you know the smaller guys were getting into the lane with no fear of any shot blocking. Like Aaron Baines just isn't sort of getting it done on that side of the floor. And now what that does, that translates into the lack of transition buckets. Now, with the huge issue being the spicy boy ain't he's not a max guy. He's not a go-to guy. Without those easy transition buckets to sort of allow someone to get into a rhythm, maybe on an off night, if you're not a pure scorer, it's very, very difficult. So now what's happening is he's getting the ball down on the offensive end, but he's turning the ball over. He's not comfortable in that situation. The ideal situation for a lot of teams in this league, okay, you want your superstar to have the ball in the half-court sets and be able to draw a double team. And now out of that double team, you know, they have to be able to now make the correct play to allow your role players to be very effective. This is where guys like Van Fleet come in. This is where guys like OG are supposed to come in and be able to hit shots and make plays. This is where guys like Kyle Lowry, okay, he'll make plays out of double teams, and now he'll be the second creator. But he's not a very good decision maker, so he's turning the ball over, and that's causing a whole other issue for them. So I really think it's a bigger mess than anyone can see at this point. But as the season progresses, I really can't see them being able to fix that much on both sides of the ball, because, you know, defense leads to offense and both go hand in hand. So, yeah, man, sorry to my people in Toronto, man. I got enough love for Canada. Trust me. I got enough love for Canada, but it ain't happening this year. It ain't happening.
I think we all alluded to it. It's going to be a critical sort of redirectioning of the franchise over the next couple of months, because Nick Nurse, highly experienced coach, championship coach now, and of course Masai Ujiri, most people consider the best president within basketball. But look, let's jump into our latest challenge in Off the Court, because we got a little bit something special for you wrapped up in there.
The modern NBA is a shooter's league. Of last season's top 10 scorers, 38% of all field goal attempts came from three-point range. Compare this to the top scorers in the iconic 90s era, where three-point attempts accounted for just 12.4% of shots taken from the field, and you can see just how dramatically the game has changed. This stark contrast often leads to debates as to how 90s stars, well, one guy specifically, would fare today, and how modern shooters would fare in the more physical game back then. As incomparable as the two periods are, there is perhaps one player who would best bridge the gap. You may have spotted him on that table back there. With over 34% of his shots coming from behind the arc in the 90s, Reggie Miller was one of the first stars to implement high-volume three-point shooting as the team's lead scorer, demonstrating to a three-point shy league that this was a viable offensive style for franchise players and competing teams. Though his career average of 4.7 trade attempts per game barely seems noteworthy today, after all Giannis Antetokounmpo averaged the same last season, Miller was doing this over a span where entire teams averaged just 11.9 three-point attempts per game. Of course, we probably wouldn't be talking about him had these attempts not been hitting the target, and the thing about Reggie is that he was a deadeye, averaging just shy of 40% for his career three-point attempts and sinking 88.8% of his free throws to boot. A member of the 50-40-90 club for his exploits in the 93-94 season, and a guy who spent 10 different seasons amongst the top 5 for three-pointers made, Reggie Miller is widely regarded as one of the greatest shooters the game has ever seen. Selected by the Indiana Pacers with the 11th pick, Miller emerged as the franchise leader in the 1989-90 season, just his third year in the league. From that point forward, he'd gradually put himself amongst the league's elite, truly cementing his place there by making 5 conference finals over a 7-year stretch beginning in 1994. Much of this period of his career would come to be defined by a rivalry with New York and a series of last-gasp plays which earned him a reputation as the league's most clutch player behind Michael Jordan. Key to this was an impossible feat in Game 1 against the Knicks in 1995. With just 18.7 seconds left to overturn a 6-point deficit, Miller somehow scored 8 points in 9 seconds of game time, resulting in a spectacular snatch-and-grab win for the Pacers. Despite clearly having the attributes to go ring-chasing with other franchises, Reggie Miller stuck by the team that drafted him for the length of his career. As the small-market Indiana struggled to attract championship-caliber talent and had to instead rely on player development, this ultimately meant that Reggie spent most of his career, and definitely most of his prime years, without a bona fide second star. Reggie's Pacers nearly always existed as underdogs and would continue to drop agonizingly short of their coveted championship, regularly getting edged out by larger market teams with significantly more star power. Most notably, this included Patrick Ewing and Charles Oakley's Knicks in 1994, Shaq and Penny's Magic in 95, and Jordan and Pippen's Bulls in 98, all of whom beat the Pacers over 7 games in the conference finals. In 2000, the Pacers managed to finally get past the conference finals, only to run into Shaq and Kobe at the launch of their dynasty. Arguably, Reggie's best chance came in his final 2 seasons, when Indiana's roster also boasted eventual 6-time All-Star Jermaine O'Neal and Defensive Player of the Year Ron Artest. Unfortunately for the top-seeded Pacers, they'd be upset in 2004's conference finals by the third-place Pistons, who themselves pushed on to take that year's championship. The Pacers' hopes to run it back and go again in Reggie's final year were then damaged just 7 games into the next season, following an ugly road game in Detroit. The infamous Malice at the Palace, a brawl involving players and fans, led to Ron Artest being suspended for the entirety of the season. The Pacers would still make the playoffs, but fell to the Pistons yet again in the second round. With just 15 seconds remaining in a Game 6 that the Pacers had already lost, Reggie Miller was taken off for the last time to a standing ovation from both the Indianapolis crowd and the Detroit Pistons bench, a gesture which acted to ease the animosity between the two franchises. Given his loyalty to the Pacers, it is unsurprising that Reggie Miller remains Indiana's icon, leading the franchise for games played, points, assists, and steals amongst many other categories. The league's all-time leader in three-pointers made and attempted when he retired, Miller has since been overtaken. What won't change, however, is his spot in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, which will continue to stand testament to the undeniable role Reggie played in shaping today's game.
A new year means new beginnings. It's the perfect time to introduce our newest segment, the OG series. And who better to start with than the original OG, the sniper down in Indiana, the Nick killer, Mr. Reggie Miller. Look, BJ, I want to allude to you because this is your era, and this is perfect time to lean on you as our OG on this show. And we turn around and ask you to give us the insight into the 90s. What was it like playing against Reggie, especially those iconic battles that you guys would have?
You know, Reggie was a consummate professional. And I remember when this young kid came into this league, and, Reggie and I, we shared the same agent. And for many of us playing in that era, we had a deep appreciation for what he was able to do on and off the court. And this young man was, without question, one of the great shooters of that era. There were so many wonderful players, but Reggie really brought a unique spin to the game because he was shooting and he was taking advantage of the three-point line. He wasn't a great ball handler. He wasn't a great passer, but he established what he could do and really took the game and created space on the floor. They had another player on their team, I thought, that Reggie Miller really benefited from playing with, and that was Rick Smits, the dunking Dutchman. And why was that important? Because back then the game was played from the inside out. So Reggie Miller had a guy who he could throw the ball into, but more importantly, it became a great lethal combination because they had an inside-outside threat, and then you sprinkled in all the other things around him. Reggie was clutch. Reggie performed when the lights were bright, and he always took big shots. And I had the ultimate and the utmost respect for him because he always took on his matchup, not only on the offensive end, which, you see a lot of players do, and that's acceptable today, but he took that matchup on the other end. He had to guard the Clyde Drexlers, the Joe Dumars, the Michael Jordan, so forth and so on, when that position was just loaded with scores night in and night out. And Reggie Miller, he stood out amongst the best of the best. So, he was a pro. He had a phenomenal career. And also one thing is, guys, he stuck with his one team his entire career. You don't see that often, but Reggie Miller did it, and he did it in a small market.
Different breed. As you just said, 18 seasons, one franchise. You don't see that nowadays, really, in terms of elite Hall of Fame talent. And look, credit to him, man. Anybody that hasn't done their research into Reggie Miller, any of the younger viewers, please go and research their 8 points in 9 seconds. It is probably one of the most dramatic moments in basketball we've ever seen. And also go and research his sister, because she could play too. I promise you that for free. Yeah. Look, that gave me so much joy, so much nostalgia. But let's look ahead as well as we jump into primetime preview. Saturday night. You know, I'm always telling you what to do, and I'm labeling this one the battle of the big men. Arguably the two best traditional centers in the game. Look, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic. This is one you don't want to miss. 8 p.m. Denver against Philadelphia. Sky Sports Arena and Sky Sports Mix. When I say that to you, that's two men with unique capabilities. And then 9 p.m. on Sunday, we kick off something that's very special. Yes, we're starting our newest series, the Watch-Alongs Live. We will be here to bring you live and direct all of the action, all of the direct. And when I say to you direct, I'm talking about organic responses on YouTube. Our first game that we're tipping off is the Bulls against the Clippers, 9 p.m. on Sky Sports YouTube. We cannot wait. We've been pushing for this one for a long while. So I promise you there's going to be some organic responses up in there. Look, we could talk about Paul George. We get to talk about Billy Donovan's great start to the season. But let's talk about Saturday night first. Ovie, how good is that skill set from both of those big men? You're talking about Jokic and Embiid going to head on Saturday night. How excited are you, my friends?
I'm excited. I think we're going to really get a chance to look at two big men that are literally the epitome of the evolution of the big men. You know, we've seen how the game is now being played out to the three-point line, and these are two big men who are able to extend their game out to the three. They can play inside, outside. They can create for everyone around them. I don't know how many big men we've been able to see that have the vision that Jokic has. You know, this is something that is extremely amazing. I think, you know, we just saw him earlier on this year. I think he had 18 assists, which was absolutely huge. So I think these are two teams who obviously have a lot of expectations. They're both expected to be playoff teams, and you know, they both, I'm sure, have high hopes to make their own runs once they get to the playoffs. So this will be a good matchup and a good test for both of the teams earlier on.
Mo, I wanted to get your opinion on sort of the slow start the Nuggets have had because of the high standard they've set for themselves, and how you expecting their season to kind of, let's say, go 180 under Mike Malone. Do you expect this is just an early start to the season with just some struggles, or is this really the direction that Denver are going to go in?
You know, I'm not surprised they've got off to a slow start. If we think back to the bubble and what they went through there in terms of their playoff series, 7 games in the first round, 7 games in the second round, and then a tough battle against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. For me, it's no surprise that these guys have come out struggling a little bit, because that would have taken its toll on them, especially when, you know, your big man isn't in, you know, the best shape out of all the big men in the league. Although I do think Nikola Jokic has improved his conditioning coming into this season, but you know, this slow start for me was expected. I don't have any doubt that they're going to figure it out. You know, it's not like we just spoke about the Toronto Raptors where there's fundamental issues. I feel like the Denver Nuggets will figure out in due time. They've lost a couple really close games at the end, and they've had a few games where you could just see that they just didn't have the legs in them. So I feel like they definitely will turn it around. And when you've got that much talent on the roster, especially with Nikola Jokic, but also Jamal Murray, with the confidence boost that he's got from what he did in the bubble, you know, I'm not too worried about the Denver Nuggets. And I think although they're in very different places in the standings, this matchup this weekend is going to be a very interesting one. And also, you know, Ovie's talking about the two big men, the evolution as well. I hope we get a Bol sighting, because he is the true epitome of the evolution of the big man, because that guy can do everything. And I hope he gets a couple minutes out there as well. That's going to be fun.
BJ, I want to flip to Sunday because it's our very first watch along. Look, we've been pushing for this for a reason, because there's some very vocal people in this HeatCheck family. But look, I'm talking about Billy Donovan, first of all. Some impressive performances I've seen, the wins over the Mavs and the Wizards this year. Are they actually able to push themselves into that playoff contention, or maybe even a play-in contention in the East?
You talking about the Chicago Bulls? Is that the team you're talking about here?
Chicago Bulls, man.
You know, I hold the Bulls dearly to my heart, and every year I'm a fan of the Bulls, and I'm hoping for the best. But, you know, watching them early, something is just not there that's going to get this team, I feel, in the top 8 to 10 where they want to be. I love Billy Donovan, what he did last year in the bubble, what he did last year coaching that Oklahoma City team. I mean, that was an incredible achievement. However, this team right now seems to be missing something right now that's pushing them over the top. I like the young players, Kobe White. I liked, some of the players that they have. But overall, they don't seem to have the one thing that's ready to say, this is a team that's ready to play in the playoffs. We keep waiting on Levine. We keep waiting on these players. But for whatever reason, it hasn't happened for them. But I'm excited to see them play. I'm excited to see them play, and I think that it'll be a good test for them. But overall, if you're asking me, are they one of the top 8 teams in the Eastern Conference? Right now, I have to say no.
Ovie, there's been a lot of, let's say, adaptation and adjustments made in that Clippers roster, and also the chemistry in terms of within their team. Are you expecting to see sort of an example of that change right now? Is there prime time on Sunday for us? And what have you kind of made of Paul George exploding over the last couple of games?
I think quietly Paul George has something to prove this year. He definitely hears all the chatter. And it shows. He wants to win. I think he's taking every night, or he's trying to play every night with somewhat a chip on his shoulder. I can't see any upsets happening on Sunday. I think the Clippers are going to take care of business, hopefully. But I think, it'll be an interesting game. They still have to play the game. And we do know the Clippers to sometimes, come to games half asleep and lose by 50 points. But, I definitely don't see that happening this Sunday. I'm sure they'll take care of business.
Mo Mooncey, 30 seconds. Sell it to the people why they should be watching us on the watch along on Sunday night.
That's easy, man. Come get lit with the gang. You ain't never heard NBA commentary brought to you with this much waviness and this much sauce sprinkled in. Come on, bro. With the levels over here. If you ain't watching us, you're tripping. If you ain't watching the HeatCheck crew bringing you this game live, I don't need to sell it to you because you're in the wrong place mentally if you ain't coming to watch the game with us. I don't need to sell it to you. The real ones know. The real ones know. This is the only place to be on Sunday night.
Mo always says the Clippers go clip. Mo is going to mow. That's what he's going to do. Yeah. That's my new slogan. Mo is going to mow.
Yeah.
Mo's going to mow.
You know the vibe.
9 p.m. Sunday, Sky Sports YouTube. You know what it is. But before we go, we have to catch you up with how the rest of the HeatCheck family is doing, including ourselves, in the fantasy. Yeah. Now, gents, I don't want to be brag of those shit, all the rest of it, I turn around and say it, but we're kind of letting the side down a little bit. Considering I'm 72nd and I'm the highest in the team, we're not really doing too good. Some people are questioning our sort of basketball knowledge out here. Shout out to as Nipsey would say, the marathon continues. Yeah, Gail, shout out to Gail, shout out to Josh, shout out to Matthew. I see what you lot are doing. Jason Tatum had an incredible week, so that's a great shout, Matthew. But I did say I'm not giving no respect to anybody that's got Team 3 in their name, because that lets me know how many teams you have. Yeah, that's slander. That's a shot direct. You can at me anytime you want. Yeah, but look, doing things. 2021 is due to be lit on the HeatCheck. No two ways about it. And we start with that watch along. 9 p.m. Sky Sports YouTube. We'll see you there.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.